Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public. And we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. I got to slow it down. We're getting started here on a Monday, and I feel like I'm ready to just rip into this. What a wild, crazy Friday, Saturday, Sunday since the last time we spoke. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Monday. It is February the 3rd. We are kicking off the week in outstanding form. I'm far too excited. Far too excited for a Monday morning. I don't feel like I should be this amped up, so I'm going to try to do it with a deep breath. We're going to cover down on a bunch of wild stuff. Number one, apparently we're getting the groundhog saw his shadow. So Punxsutawney Phil, the immortal groundhog from Groundhog's Day, continues to be used. I didn't even know we were still doing that stuff, so we'll talk about that. I think what it means is we're going to have 6 more weeks of Trump hurting feelings, aka the entry into the golden age of America is what we're calling it, or whatever he's calling it, starting with the Gulf of America. It's getting wild out there. And the biggest news for me, at least on my end of the world, is that the FBI is having a complete meltdown. There is panic in the streets and chaos in the halls of the Hoover building. We're going to break down all that stuff so you guys understand what's going on here. Let's see what else we're going to be covering. I got a bunch of stuff. U.S. aid getting shut down, DEI getting wiped off the map, mainstream media not sure what to do. They're crying for their very good friends who are the FBI agents doing January 6th. It is delicious. If you are a person that ingests leftist tears the way that we do over here, your cup runneth over. Before we get into all of the chaos, and it is way too fun. Actually, should we start today with the blessing? Let's start with the blessing. I just want to give you a taste of how it's going. I don't normally start with this, but let's start with a video clip. This is a blessing for your week by the demonic forces that are running the other team, and it might give you a little insight on why they're not winning. This is whatever the hell this is. Let's kick off Black History Month that way.
May the endless, boundless energy of the universe wrap around you with awe and love and well-becoming. Amen, Ashe, Amin, and may we together make it so.
Oh, yeah. May we together make it so. When you pray to man and your own capabilities, that's how it goes. We got so much fun stuff to get into today. All right, before we get started, let's go ahead and say thanks to the folks over at Patriot Protect. Folks, the website is patriot-protect.com/Kyle. The promo code Kyle will save you 15% on an annual subscription to Patriot Protect. There is a shocking amount of personal data that you have, and it is publicly available. It is out there, your past and your current addresses, your phone numbers, your email addresses, those of your relatives, and all kinds of other stuff. There are data aggregator sites that basically scoop all that stuff up. They monetize it, and they sell them off to robocallers and to scammers and to people that are trying to target you and take advantage of what is going on. If you want to make it stop, you could change your name, your phone number, your email address. You could move every couple days, but that would not be a great option. And so the alternative is signing up for a service like Patriot Protect. And if you haven't done so, then you are exposed. It's a fact. You guys know because you get those calls the same way that I used to. I get far less of them now, and they continue to drop off. What they do is cut it off at the source. They go through and they remove you from the personal data databases and the data aggregators that are out there in the world that are looking to scam you. Those are the people that help target you. It's a powerful tool that basically ensures your privacy, your security, and your peace of mind. I still owe my wife the time I got to sit down and fill hers out because she's not going to do it herself. You guys can buy it as a gift. You can buy it for yourself. You can do it for someone you love, and they work 24/7 after they remove you. It's about $5 a month for the whole year. Something worth looking into. If you have not done it before, patriot-protect.com/Kyle. Patriot-protect.com/Kyle will give you an opportunity to just remove yourself from all this nonsense. Let's get the energy going again. Let's get it started right now. And here it is. Okay, so you guys want to do the Groundhog's Day thing first? Let's start with that. Oh, that's not it. That's not it. This is it. That's the propaganda. Here it is. Punxsutawney Phil, that weird-looking animal. Every time I see a groundhog, I think of my dog Bella. And Bella was a German Shepherd. She passed last year. She was a really great animal, and she lived with our family. She protected my kids. She protected my family and me and my wife. She went on all these different adventures with us. And one of her adventures was terminating a Punxsutawney Phil lookalike, an enormous groundhog that was in Connecticut at my in-laws' place. We let her out of the car. She must have smelled the thing. They have a couple acres somewhere behind some rock wall off in the distance, and she shot out like a lightning bolt. You guys have seen what a fur missile looks like, and that's what she did. And she came back with this like 35, 40-pound monstrous groundhog, just eliminated it, crushed its back, and carried it back to me. So every time I see one of these things, apparently when they see their shadow, then something, I have no idea what this means. I never understood this instinct. Apparently there was a massive crowd on hand to hear what the woodchuck's weather forecast would be, an annual ritual that is predicted that there will be 6 more weeks of Trump chaos headed your way. I'm just ad-libbing here. I guess when they see the shadow, which somebody just makes up, then they decide whether there's going to be an early spring or not. Nope. More winter, more discontent, more wailing and gnashing of teeth, and nothing says it harder than the propaganda that is going on right now. I've got a video clip to kind of prove my point. But in multiple places on NBC and MSNBC, they're talking about Stewart Road. The fact of the matter is that the hard left is unable to leave January 6th. And you can see that through the confirmation hearings. They've attacked Kash Patel. They went after Pamela Bondi. They have tried to bring this up anytime that it made sense. They're just trying to adjudicate something that happened 4 years ago because Donald Trump pardoned all of them in a sweeping move. This article, which is an op-ed and truly bizarre, is entitled, "My Children and I Escaped Stewart Rhodes, but I'll never forget what he taught me." For years, Tasha Adams, that's his ex-wife, waited for her then husband's undefined restlessness to subside, and then he found the Oath Keepers and blah, 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 blah. It was a dangerous marriage. She had to secretly pack up her kids and run away, maybe. Look, maybe he's a really bad guy. He has an eye patch and a black hat, so he looks like a Disney villain, so that's what they kind of hone in on. But I will remember this. I have a strange connection to Stewart Rhodes' case. In fact, we might get him on the podcast here. There's a decent chance we will. He's going out and doing a media tour, so maybe we'll have him on to talk about it. My team was actually slated to go do the arrest of Stewart Rhodes just after January 6th, 2021. And so in yet another weird moment where I got pulled into the fray of things that have happened at a national level, and I didn't really have any business being part of it, we did have a strange phone call. It woke me up probably sometime after midnight, in January of 2021. I ran a surveillance team. So I was the first name on the phone list. I was the team leader, and I had an assistant team leader, and I woke him up and I said, we got to get our team ready to go. They want us to go execute a surveillance into interdiction and search warrant for a supposedly dangerous member of some group. Now, there was a lot of confusing information that was popping out there at that time. None of us really knew what was coming down the pipe. So I woke up my whole team, and we got ready to go out to the far western part of Virginia near Winchester, which is where he was out hanging out and living in some house. And they wanted us to go out there and do that. They wanted a tactical surveillance team, which my team sort of met the threshold of that. We had a couple of guys that were on SWAT. Everybody there had prior military experience or a serious law enforcement. I had a couple of shooters. I had a couple of dudes who were former air marshals. If you guys listen to our Sunday special, our Sunday little sit down with Peter Johnson, then Air marshals can shoot. They have the highest standards in any federal law enforcement, I believe. And so anyway, we had really capable people on my team. So we all got up, we all got dressed, we all got ready to go. And then they told us to stand down, and they sent in a SWAT team, I believe from Richmond, which is the technical area that handles that for the FBI. For some reason, even though Washington, D.C. is much closer to Winchester, the Richmond field office is the one that handles it, and that's what they sent out. So no, I've never spoken about that publicly, really. Like, no one really knows that. Stuart certainly doesn't know that, but my team was the ones that were woken up, and then we ended up not actually going out there and executing that arrest. And I'm glad of it, because I think that would have really bothered me in retrospect. It's just interesting to think about how many of these little weird pieces. In any case, they're pushing this nonsense because they need to have villains. They need to rally around it. That's why you got that weird prayer. And we're going to go more into the DNC because the DNC chose a chair, which I don't care about, and a vice chair. What I care about is the process and what it says about the opposition to Donald Trump. And what I also would say, and I think this is the most important piece, it shows that they learned nothing in the last election. And I'm here for it. Like, please, Democrats, what you're doing is awesome. Carry on. Just keep pushing it. Keep saying that federal employment is important simply because it exists. Please try to support all of the federal employees that have done things that have wasted American taxpayer dollars and have abused the trust of the American people. Please just keep doubling down on that, because you've already seen what the American people think, and it's just our fault. We're just too racist, sexist, misogynistic. We're too homophobic, transphobic, whatever kind of phobic you want to throw on us. We're all of those things. You just need to educate us. Spend your time trying to fix the American ethos, straighten out our morality, because we really need your help. We really do. Democrats, keep going. Do not stop. Don't doubt yourself for a minute. I'm going to give you more examples of that. Listen, never interrupt the other team when they are making a mistake. You certainly do not need to stop the enemy when they are losing. So let them go. And they are the enemy to a lot of things, including American freedom, to American financial security. We're going to talk a little bit about in a bit about the Monroe Doctrine, which many of you probably have heard once and then forgotten because you are not in middle school anymore and the Monroe Doctrine is not part of your life. I think that there needs to actually be an update, and it will be the Trump Doctrine. Okay? The Monroe Doctrine was named for President Monroe. And he had an anti-interventionalist thing on the other hemispheres. He was only interested in the United States influencing what was going on in the Western hemisphere. And in some ways, we're going to bring that back, I think. I think that's what Donald Trump has mentioned. But America First actually says a little bit more than that. And if we lean closer towards America only, which is to say that our interests are the only things that matter until everything is squared away at home, a Trump doctrine may be in order. And it might be codified. I think that would be fantastic. I think it would be good stuff. Before we get away from the Stuart Rose thing. Okay, so he was in charge of the Oath Keepers. He was convicted of seditious conspiracy. He is the villain of what we need to talk about when we bring back up January 6th and all the bad things. So I've got a couple clips that I want to play from that. And all of this plays into what's going on in the FBI right now. Look, this is what happens. They sold a bill of goods. I'm not interested in stopping them. Let them continue to run this. Again, here's what it looks like. He's a villain. Those are normal pictures from normal people, but he is really a dastardly evil person. And here is his ex-wife. Listen, ex-wives, you know who you are. You might not like your ex-husband. Ex-husbands, you might not like your ex-wives. You're not exactly the most neutral arbiter of what is appropriate to talk about. I always take people who are exes at kind of arm's length, just like you should look at what I have to say about the FBI. If I am not being fair and balanced, because I am often not, you should get a second opinion. That's what you should do. That's what a skeptic does. They don't just say, well, that person said it and they were on a place with a television. There was a screen and the screen was talking to me and gave me, God's honest truth. That's just not how it works, does it? So here's a little taste. I'm going to skip around in this video because it's about 10 minutes of it. I'm only going to play you a little bit. I want you to kind of see who this lady is. And you tell me if she's a credible source or not. I've got immediate red flags when I watch it, and I think you might as well.
A new documentary premieres on MSNBC, King of the Apocalypse. It dives into the life of Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes, who was sentenced in May of 2023 to 18 years in prison for seditious conspiracy for plotting the violence ahead of the January 6th attack.
Just stuff I'd never even seen before. Just look through it because I wanted people to see what he looked like as a college student. And, evil doesn't always present, with a black eye patch and a cowboy hat,
Suddenly they believe in evil again. Have you heard that? I'm just going to pause it on this lady for a second. She's the ex-wife of Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes. And she's got some interesting kind of crazy lady hair. She's got that scarf, which doesn't seem to be a rainbow by accident. Luckily, she's on MSNBC on the weekend episodes, so she's on the hard left, I would say. You know, she wants you to know about evil. Does this look like the kind of lady that might trans her kid? Just saying, she's the one that said that she had to deprogram her son from getting along with his biological father. You know, there are some truly evil people out there. I don't know that this man is one of them, simply because he agrees with... Now, she's going to make an analogy that undermines this argument further for me. She refers to Trump and Stuart Rhodes as flim-flam men, which I assume is like a funny way of saying a con artist. And yet, that con artist captured the popular vote, captured the Americans' political energy of the moment in November. This seems like a losing argument at this point, particularly with how many people are cheering this. Even people who are going to suffer at least some discomfort because of a Donald Trump. I have friends that are currently within the FBI that are cheering the idea that they may shut down the FBI because of the FBI's behavior, and they are laughing about it because they've always been people who know how to do work, and they'll always be successful wherever they go. Those are the kind of people that we don't have to worry about. This lady seems like she really needs to really get the status quo back. They've had it for 4 years. The energy has moved away, and they haven't picked up the thread. So here she is.
You wrote a piece for MSNBC that is out today, and you write, if there is one useful lesson I learned from 30 years with someone like Stuart Rhodes, it's that false promises and the smoke and mirrors magic tricks to woo crowds are not something that can last. Real change requires more than just an emotional surge. Without substance, the fervor always ends eventually. And even the most skilled of flim-flam men lose the faith of the crowd when the House lights click back on. I suspect you are not only talking about Stuart Rhodes in that.
You're not only talking about Stuart Rhodes, are you? This is how you do very objective journalisming. Look at how much journalism was being done there. What I'd like you to do now, Tasha Adams, is I'm going to subtly goad you into talking about the other people that are evil, to include the very, very bad man, Donald Trump. That's what's happening right there. And you can actually see it. I mean, if you dissect how media works, if you dissect what propaganda looks like, it seems like a totally fluid conversation, doesn't it? And yet there's a propping up, and there is a spoon feeding the line. There's all these really, really great compilations of like 60 Minutes where they'll go, and then he took it away. And then the guest goes, and then he took it away. You know, it's like they'll feed you the line and then you feed it back. Now, here she's going to do it. Here's Tasha Adams, the ex-wife of Stuart Rhodes, bringing it up. It's also about Donald Trump. So here they are.
That is very true. And the similarities between Stuart and Donald Trump were so obvious that this was actually a huge part of what helped de-radicalize my son, was realizing, my God, that the patterns are the same. You know, people with this type of, you know, potentially personality disorder sort of behave in these same ways, and they never really have, you know, well, they don't have truth on their side. And so there cannot be any substance to what they're saying. It's always just glitter and glitz and, you know, don't you feel good while I'm talking?
It's very interesting to me that these people like to use the words like truth is not on their side, democracy is in the balance, right? Evil doesn't always show up fully baked. They're using words of morality and religion, and yet they're the same ones that would lose their minds by someone saying, we're going to now affirm that in God we trust and God bless America, and that there is in fact a God, and most of us believe it is a Christian God, a God who sent his own son into this world. It's just kind of fun to watch it. Because when I told you earlier, and I've said this for the last 2 years, it has been a staple of this podcast, and anybody who's listened will recognize it. And if you're new, listen, you're dealing with someone there who is a religious zealot. Leftism is a religion. It is a secular religion. It is a godless religion. It's a religion that does blessings like this. I got to play it again. It's so weird. But this is a religious fervor. It's demonic in its nature because it walks man and mankind away from a real God and puts out this kind of bullshit.
May the endless, boundless energy of the universe wrap around you with awe and love and well-becoming. Amen, Ashe, Amin, and may we together make it so.
We together make nothing so. That's the funniest part about all of this. That's hubris. That's pride. That is the Tower of Babel. That is the scattering of all men so that language has to be, mixed in and has to obscure the capabilities. It's the original sin of pride. How about a fat, ugly, weird black lady wearing a freaking Roman collar that was set up and is the vestige of the Catholic Church? What are you doing? Why are you praying with multiple amens and achmins and ashes? What is that nonsense? And may we make it so? You forgot God, lady. That's the whole point of what you're supposed to be doing up there. I don't know what that is, but it goes to an underlying position. And that position is that the God of government is being attacked right now. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of it from Donald Trump. Then we're going to go to the DNC because it's just too funny not to. Again, in honor of Black History Month, I have nothing funnier than black women yelling at their own constituents and telling them, pay attention to me because I'm a black woman. I find that to be hilarious. Meanwhile, we've got the actual powers of government for once are now saying, hey, how about knock that off? How about less of this nonsense and focus on things that we all have in common? That would be better. In any case, we're going to move on to that in just a second. Like I said, we're going to give nothing but examples as we enter into this thing. My buddy used to tell me he didn't celebrate Black History Month. He just went January 31st, and then he just went to January 32nd, and he celebrated all the way to the end of January 60th or whatever. Like, I had a friend in the military who used to do that. Yeah, that's because these people threw this on us. Before we get there, let's go ahead and be aware that there are other things that are at play, and you guys want to make sure that you are handling your own business, shall we say. All right. And one way you can do that is by going to twc.health/Kyle. What if the next global health crisis isn't a pandemic, but it's part of a deeper plan? It's not a coincidence that Dr. Anthony Fauci was pardoned January 1st, all the way back to 2014. This marks a pivotal moment in U.S. history, a year the Obama administration and the four-letter agencies took control of Ukraine, and shortly thereafter, Fauci spearheaded controversial gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses and biolabs. We know this was used to take down Trump. This is the strategic bioweapon production, a threat that's been brewing for over a decade, in fact, more than that. And if that wasn't disturbing enough, new findings point that Pfizer's bribe payments to the FDA got their bioweapon disguised as a vaccine approved for mass use. Look, a lot of you guys know what's going on here. You don't want to have this in your system. Coincidentally, the media is surrounding and crying out alarm about new strains of bird flu and other things that could rapidly spread and wipe out the population. 2+ million birds killed. That's why you need the wellness company's contagion emergency kit, engineered by Dr. Peter McCullough and a medical board, including 5 life-saving medications, and that has ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, Tamiflu, a nebulizer. They are designed to protect you in case of the next global health threat. All of these things are things that you can take into your own house and take care of your own problems. Make sure you can solve your own problems. It's a simple order, digital intake form that arrives in 1 to 2 weeks. You go to twc.health/Kyle, twc.health/Kyle. The promo code Kyle will save you up to $32 off, gives you free shipping. They're only available in the U.S., so sorry, Canada, we can't help you there. It's not going to happen. And speaking of, there's a few things, like I said, the God of government is outraged about tariffs. We're going to get into that just briefly, only because I have some funny clips of it. The people who worship the God of governments are really upset that their massive sacrifice and the turning point, their sort of religious experience of January 6th, is being taken down from the websites. This is a article from CBS talking about the judges. You know, those arbiters, sort of the priesthood now of our government that has been meting out punishment. Those people have been partisan, to say the least. When they looked at January 6 cases, they did not look at it they've been giving out sermons, and they've also been issuing sort of like rebukes. They've been handing out not just punishment, but they've been telling people, like, here's what your absolution should look like. You must ask and try to atone. That's not what the judicial system is supposed to be. You want to atone, you go to your God. You go to the God. These people want them to apologize to government. And right now, they're very upset that the Justice Department, which handles the executive branch, for those of you who don't understand that the Justice Department, even though it has the word justice in it, it is not part of the judiciary. We had this funny little moment on social media over the weekend. But the fact is they're cleaning up the web pages and they're pulling down the case summaries. And they're saying that the January 6th, oh my God, look at CBS, the January 6th siege at the Capitol. You know, the siege where they had like trebuchets and they were sending in like rotted pigs and things like that into the Capitol. Oh, I mean, like there was just a bunch of people outside of it who were milling about, and some of them went on a guided tour, and a couple of them fought with cops. We're going to get kind of nuanced here because we do that here. There are some FBI agents who opened January 6 cases that did so in good faith. You have to realize that part. But this crying about the database of all the people who are now pardoned by Donald Trump and are no longer necessary to be housed on DOJ websites, those people have been cleared up. And the judges are upset, and they're issuing stern rebukes from the benches as they delete and erase this stuff. They're very, very upset because they did a coup on the U.S. government. They took over the means of communicating truth. They thought they did, and they did so temporarily. So now, as accuracy is coming back into play, as the executive power comes back into play, and the Trump administration is saying, like, all right, well, we pardoned all these people because you pardoned all these other people. You've eliminated your ability to have any credibility. The executive can do whatever the hell it wants now. You started it, Biden. You pardoned your whole family retroactively. You pardoned a bunch of people who didn't necessarily even get accused of crimes. I'm going to go ahead and stop the people that were my supporters that were accused of crimes. And here's the nuance of it, because it plays into the FBI. There are some FBI agents who opened January 6 cases that did the right thing. They really did. And if you have a hard time with that, hear me out. When you assault a federal officer, it's transactional business for the FBI to go and do the investigation. It happens on the border every day. Every day, a Border Patrol agent is assaulted. And somebody has to go investigate it, whether it be in McAllen or in Laredo or in El Paso or in Sierra Vista, in Las Cruces, New Mexico, in San Diego, California. There is an FBI agent that is going to go out there and investigate an AFO, assault on federal officer. And if that was issued because of a lead, that's what we call them. This is Washington Field Office sends out information or an allegation that a federal crime took place, and that federal crime was assault on a federal officer. If that came out to you in the field offices, no matter where you were, you should have investigated it, and they did the right thing, period. But if you opened a trespassing case because someone sent you the allegation or information that somebody remained on restricted grounds and was quote unquote parading, and by the way, they were identified by a sedition hunter who is a foreign national that was receiving DOJ monies in order to look through databases or to use otherwise unauthorized software that was not created by the DOJ and did not have any of the background checks that they would have. If you were going to have somebody who is quote unquote a source, confidential human source, that is not supposed to be mentioned, that's what happened for those of you who don't know. Washington Field Office, let me tell you mechanically, this is not public information as far as I'm aware, was sending out leads to the field offices. If you're an FBI agent or an FBI employee listening to this and you know what I'm talking about, WFO sent out leads. It comes through a system called Sentinel. They would pop up in the supervisor's boxes. The inbox would be, assigned to agent. They would assign it to an agent. And in that lead, it would give allegation or information that you could find information or photographs or videos of this person, and here's where you go look at it. And they were Word documents, and they specifically said, do not cite the source of this information. Evaluate the information provided by the confidential human source, this was sedition hunters, and then make your own decision on whether or not to open a case. A lot of people went forward and opened cases on things that didn't need to be, and they didn't cite the source, which was in fact, the allegation or the predicating party. To me, that seems like a violation of the Bill of Rights. If you are not allowed to face your accuser, doesn't that seem like one of those things that we sort of believe in the due process? How do you not cite where the information came from? The FBI didn't generate it. It came from outside. It must be cited. They went around to hide the sedition hunters. And many of those people were non-foreign, they were non-U.S. nationals. They were outside of the United States, operating in places like Western Europe. Yep. Some of them were U.S. government employees doing so on government time. Why did they have that time to do so? Because they were wasting taxpayer dollars. It's very relevant to know that this is the reason why people should be worried and packing up some of their desks. And of course, as I said, the political left is covering for them. Agents have started to pack up their desks. Fear of mass firings swirl. They've been sent a 12-question survey about their roles in the January 6 cases. For whatever it's worth, it's only people that got those leads in, that did investigative work, that opened a case, that brought them to prosecution. So the agents that were not even good enough or chose to spike the ball, either way, anyone that didn't bring a case to prosecution is not necessarily going to be on the hook for getting these questionnaires. And I'll read you some of the questions because our friend Garrett O'Boyle has already gotten them. It also tells you a little bit about how things are working right now within the Bureau. People are suddenly willing to talk to the suspendables again. People are coming out of the woodwork to chat with us because they realize that what they were doing previously was either cowardly or wrong. And they want to get on the right side of things. I have people sending me, hey, Seraphin, sounds like you know Kash Patel. Can I send you my resume? I think I could be really useful in the new administration. Piss off. Not interested. You're a retired FBI agent and suddenly you know how to fix the Bureau. Where were you when I was getting canceled? Where were you when Garrett O'Boyle got canceled? How about my friend Phil Kennedy, who's recently kind of thrown off the veil? He works for a government contractor, so he has the right reasons to do so. He's never been silent or quiet, and he's constantly been in touch with people in Congress sharing this information. Just saying. Isn't it worth knowing? Here's what the survey asks. This is from the Deputy Attorney General, by the way, not from Kash Patel, not from Pamela Bondi. None of them are violating anything that they said in their confirmation hearings because they're not in charge. This is coming from the Trump transition teams. What was your current title on January 6, 2021? What is your current title today? Are you currently a supervisor? Do you currently sit in an ASAC or supervisory, what do they call these? Like senior supervisory intelligence analyst. So that's a GS-15 position. Are you currently an SES employee? Were you a supervisor when you participated in the investigation or prosecutions that happened for the events in the Capitol January 6? Were you a GS-15 in that situation? What division were you when you participated in the investigations? What was your role in the investigations, the prosecutions relating to January 6? Did you conduct any of the following techniques? These are useful. Were you assigned as a co-agent for the investigation? Did you conduct baseline data checks for the case opening? Did you conduct surveillance of the subject, discovery, evidence collection, disposition, grand jury subpoenas? Did you provide information to headquarters management and support? Were you a witness? Did you interview witnesses, subjects, complainants, etc.? Have you responded to leads set by another office? A lot of people responded to leads. In fact, my friends said that they got the information, looked at it, found like that it was not worth their time because they were doing real work that the FBI is supposed to be doing. I'll give you an example in just a second. And so they moved on. They just said, yeah, lead covered, no investigative activity is recovered. This is a First Amendment activity. Did you lead a search warrant? Did you lead an operation? Were you supervising a squad that was conducting the investigation? Did you testify at trial? And so on. These are all in Garrett O'Boyle's thread. If you guys are not following my friend GOB Actual, his handle on social media is at GOB Actual. Outstanding stuff coming to him right now. He's still in touch with a lot of people that I couldn't stomach talking to. What was the approximate date of your last activity related to the investigation or prosecution? I think all these things are going to be relevant. Why would you ask these questions without them being relevant? You'd ask them because you'd want to know, hey, what have you done? What will you do? How much did you believe in this? Were you a true believer in this information? So they're asked to answer the surveys. And once again, you've got ABC covering it fairly accurately, I think. What's really disingenuous is that there is, in fact, a group called the FBI Agents Association. And those people are out there advocating basically a premeditated lie. If you are going to give a premeditated lie to the folks who are asking questions on behalf of the senior executive in the United States government, and you answer in the executive service, you should be removed for insubordination, for a premeditated perjury, false statement, under oath or not under oath, irrelevant. You know why? Because lack of candor is the reason why you get moved as an FBI agent. It's one of the things that they cited against me. That's what they do. It's perfectly reasonable. Now, what we're hearing is that there's going to be a mass resistance, that they are not going to have the FBI agents are not going to comply with this information, and they are not going to leave. They're not leaving. They're going to stay in. They're going to do something like whatever this is. This is what the resistance looks like. They're going to do this, but the FBI version of this. You ready? This is illegal aliens like protesting in Times Square. I can imagine this being the outside of the Hoover building, except it's going to have more English.
Families together. Fuck ICE. Fuck Trump. If we stand up together as a Rasta community, we got this. We can do this. Come on. Vamos a luchar para que el pueblo unido
The FBI family, it always stands together. It stands together now. Yeah. So, okay, you always get these emails when things are about to get weird that say, hey, FBI family, we're in it with you. Do you know who's not in the FBI family? Anybody that doesn't do what the FBI tells them. Like, me. I got those emails. I actually responded back to them. I called them cowards, and I called them probably the most disingenuous human beings you could find. The funny thing about family is you're always family once you're family, right? Like you don't get to get kicked out of your family. And yet, the FBI has no problem kicking people out of the family. None at all. If you go against, sort of the doctrine of the senior executives. Well, what if that senior executive is now going to fight against the person that actually is their boss? What we see is there's a guy named Matt Driscoll. He is in charge of the FBI. He's the acting director. He's well thought of, by the way. People think he's great. I think he did some really heroic stuff while he was at HRT. And yet, he was also the commander, the senior commander, also known as the section chief of the hostage rescue team, which executed a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. You think that's going to stand in the current environment? Do you guys think that guy's going to be left without a reason? He stood up for his people. That's the right thing to do. It just turns out that the thing he's standing up for is wrong because those people, they played in the wrong. We call it majoring in the minors. If you're going to do things that are such minor crimes that there's no business of the FBI being involved, like people who are trespassing, where were all of these cases when that happened? Jury selection is going on right now for the alleged ringleader of a $250 million pandemic fraud. Do you know how many allegations of pandemic fraud came in while I was working at the FBI's field office because of what they did with the payouts for COVID? And the payroll protection loans, or whatever they're called, the PPPs. There were dozens, and they were all in the tens of millions of dollars. The FBI's major goal, major capability that local law enforcement doesn't have, it's not stopping terrorism. That's nonsense. And it's not stopping transnational organized crime and gangs. They stopped doing that in a big way after they took down the mob in the 70s. No, the thing that the FBI has the ability to do, although it often doesn't have the willingness to do, is go after massive, enormous, complex crime and fraud, things that take years to build. Why were they not doing all of this all the time? I know that they walked away from cases where there were tens of millions of dollars at stake, where people who were foreign nationals came in and set up corporations simply because they knew the United States government was going to pay out as long as they spent, 40 or 50% of it on payroll. So they suddenly had 175 employees at $100,000 plus, and they took millions of dollars from the American taxpayer. Why are those not being investigated? Why were we doing January 6 cases? And they were doing January 6 cases. I've got a fantastic little meltdown here of Rachel Maddow. She's crying about how this was the most important and the biggest case. Yeah, lady, that's the problem. It was always a lie. Enjoy a little bit of MSNBC lunacy.
But beyond that, they appear to be targeting all the FBI agents who were involved in any of the cases brought against January 6th rioters. And to put this in perspective, the January 6th riot cases make up the largest single investigation ever in the history of the Bureau. The January 6th cases are the largest criminal caseload ever assembled by the Department of Justice. If they are going to try to purge every FBI agent who took any part in any one of these well over 1,000 cases, that's kind of the whole FBI.
Yeah, except it's not. Rachel Maddow doesn't know anything about what she's talking about. Let me tell you a little bit more. 20% of the agents in the entire Bureau, of the 14,000 or so FBI agents that exist, probably 20% of them actually do the casework. It's an 80-20 situation that you guys are used to. 20% do 80% of the work. I sent this information over to NBC as well. It's really, really clear to me. Most people, even me, I didn't get a chance to do a lot of the casework. I was doing support work for it, so we directly affected the mission set, and that might be useful. So add another 15% of people that are doing search warrants, arrest warrants, evidence, exploitation. They're doing CART. They're doing CAST. These are all the different programs you can do that are supporting their full-time jobs. It means you don't take on cases. You just work on other people's cases. Yeah, that's fine. I was doing surveillance for them. We constantly were working and attributing paperwork to other people's case files so they could get prosecutions. Most of the FBI doesn't do that. Most of the FBI is in managerial roles or administrative roles, or the Bureau of Things, as my buddy used to call it. You could get rid of every single person that touched a J6 case and opened up a full investigation. You could do it. Even the ones that shouldn't be, like the AFOs. You could get rid of all of them and you would still have all the criminal work being done. You know why? Because agents who are doing criminal work, they don't have time for bullshit. They don't have time to do nonsense that doesn't help at all. And they never did. Which is why all of my friends are laughing right now. My friends are the agents who are like, dude, I don't know anything about the FBI. I just know that I've been locking up bad guys for the last 9 years. That's what I do every day. I go out there and build cases against bad guys. It's comical how upset they are. FBI employees are like every other federal employee. Most of them don't do anything of value for the American people. I know that because when they didn't let them come to work because we had federal sequesters or shutdowns, it was just a few agents out in the field, the ones that had real criminal cases and the ones that were actively supporting criminal cases. And my team was one of those. They were the only ones that made any difference. Everybody else was sent home. And we didn't notice. We didn't need them. They didn't do anything. In fact, how often was it? Anybody who's worked in federal employment knows this. You go to somebody who's a federal employee and you have to ask them to do their job, beg them to do it, and thank them profusely for doing their job, which is in their job description. I was actually written up and chastised by my boss one time because I brought the job description of the most junior person on my floor. She was a brand new fresh hire. She had 6 months on the job. She was probationary. She was a black female that was absolutely useless. And it wasn't relevant she was a black female. That's just how she got the job. I found out she had a degree in gender studies. You guys are starting to see where some of this stuff comes in. She had a gender studies degree, and she was able to work as a secretary at the FBI with a top secret clearance. And she refused to do things that were her job. They rather have a 6-figure federal investigator spend my time feeding 500 papers into a copy machine to scan into my file rather than let her do her job. And I told her, I'm like, look, I understand that no one's training you, so I'm going to help you. The first time, I'm going to do it and you watch. The second time, you do it and I'll help you. The third time, you do it yourself and I'll supervise. If you have any questions, I'm there. And the fourth time, I'm still available to you whenever you need help. I'm here to help you be successful. And that was a problem for them. And I was told in no uncertain terms, you do not tell these people what to do. Her literal job, OST, was to do what we needed her to do to be able to do our casework. And when she wasn't there, the squad kept running. It didn't matter. Why? Because they're like this. Look, I got a funny little like TikTok type video. This is a average government employee who's working from home who, God forbid, might have to go to do work for the federal government.
I'm a federal employee and Trump is trying to ruin my life. First, they sent us a notice saying you have to go back to work in the office full time. And if you don't want to do it, you have to let us know by the first week of February. And you have to leave this position by September. Yeah. I work from home every other week, and I live extremely far from where I work because I can't afford to live in certain areas in the Bay. And now he's telling me I cannot work from home every other week. I have to come into this office every day. And if you don't want to do that, you can quit. Yeah, they literally gave
that's
us
exactly right.
a resignation letter that you can use if you want to.
Yeah, they sent you a resignation letter because they know you're so lazy you won't even write your own. That's why, because federal employees, on the whole, don't do much. That hasn't stopped the mainstream media from going out there and campaigning on their behalf. They cannot stand the idea that anybody would not appreciate all of these really important federal workers. They're a huge voting bloc. That's what they are. And as was explained to me very early on in my federal employment, the federal government is basically a jobs program for people who don't need to be able to do work. I'm sorry, you have to commute a long ways in. My first job out of college, I had to commute 2 hours in because I couldn't even afford to get an apartment anywhere and I was staying with family members. I drove 2 hours in to San Francisco, went to work, drove back 2 hours. I did that for a couple of weeks until I had a paycheck. Boom. Then I went and I moved in where I could afford it. And it wasn't a great neighborhood. So be it. Welcome to reality. Person who doesn't understand things. By the way, that lady, who's also a minority female, is complaining that she's not LGBTQIA. I'm done with all that in the era of Trump, by the way. I've just decided this morning. It's just gay. Women, if you are interested in women, you're gay. Men, if you're interested in men and men or women, I don't care, you're gay. If you're interested in the same sex, you're gay. There's no such thing as transgender. There never has been. And I don't really like even using it. I would have to use air quotes every time, and I'm just done with doing that. So we're just over it here. We're okay with that. And if you want to use the word queer because for some reason they like that, I don't know, they've taken a pejorative and they've made it their own, knock yourself out. I'm okay with that too. I grew up in the 80s. That's a normal thing. We're done with it. From here on out. Speaking of these people, these entitled types, right? I do want to continue kind of pushing this forward They're crying about the gender ideology thing. They put it in air quotes. No. There's really a thing called gender ideology. And that's why Donald Trump has ordered that all the DEI stuff go away. And that's why we're seeing all these things go away. That's why these people are sad. Page not found. That's the Department of Commerce, by the way. The entire diversity section gone. Why? Because it has nothing to do with doing the mission of the federal government. Affirming your mental illness is not part of what the government is about. It's just not. So much of what happened while we were there was people trying to tiptoe around a bunch of folks that didn't have any reasonable grasp of reality. I'm fairly confident. Look, it's on my discharge paperwork for the FBI that said I said racist, sexist, and or homophobic things, no examples given, no one ever had any. It's the worst thing you could do, be a bigot. So they just alleged that anybody was a bigot. Guess what? Get rid of that part. I had female supervisors who touched my shoulders and rubbed my shoulders and said, that's a really nice looking shirt on you, Kyle. You should wear it more frequently. Men, I want you to imagine doing that to one of your female employees or coworkers. Imagine walking up to a female who works with you or for you, putting your hands on their body and then saying, that's a really nice looking blouse, Susan. You should wear it more frequently. It really, it's really a complimentary to your figure. Are you kidding me right now? I had that happen more than once. And it's like, yeah, we're done with this stuff. We're done with it. That woman, by the way, is like a very senior member of the FBI at this point. Maybe not for long. Sorry, Aubrey. I still remember you. This stuff has to happen. We just found out that the big girl, well, this is an allegation that came in through Twitter, but it's probably accurate because the people in front of her have been removed. The woman who weighed 300 pounds that took a kneel for BLM, you remember her? The Kneel Team 6 commander, Meal Team 6. Her name is Sarah Linden. She's at the Washington field office. She was made an ASAC, that's a GS-15, as being asked about in the J6 stuff. She's been elevated to a deputy assistant director. That's a really senior position. It sounds like she's an SESer, and she's probably a new one. Adios, Sarah Linden. All these people need to be torched. I actually have evidence, and if you guys hold on to the end, I'm going to show you why women can't be in law enforcement and military. It's going to make you laugh, so don't, all you ladies that are getting riled up, you're like, I was a cop. Like, no. You can't be a cop anymore. I have the proof. It's definitive. We're going to make this happen. All right, we're going to keep moving forward. Before we do, let me just say thanks to my buddies at Patriot Cooler. I'm flashing back to all my bureau time right now because I can't help it. And the people that were with me since then, yeah, they were in the car with me when I was doing surveillance. When we were working and nobody else was, the folks from Patriot Cooler were slinging coolers and they were in our hands. This is not one of those, but I do have my original OG Gen 1 Patriot Cooler downstairs, and I still use it. PatriotCoolers.com, promo code KYLE, saves you 10%. Yeah, you'll get free shipping if you spend $50 or more. I've never spent less than $50 on their website because I always find a couple extras. Buy yourself extra lids of different styles, so on. I used to fill things up with like a frozen smoothie that I'd take out of a blender, and it would stay from like 5 a.m. until noon when I wanted to have a lunch sitting in the car. And when you're sitting around and all your job is to do is watch bad guys and pee in a bottle and look through binoculars and call out on the radio, having a nice cup of coffee that stays hot and a smoothie that stays cold is paramount. It is the way that we used to get through the day. PatriotCoolers.com. From 2017 onward, they have been one of my stalwart companions. And I don't say that lightly. They've also been the longest sponsor of the Kyle Seraphin Show. So we're really appreciative that they've stayed with us. Again, PatriotCoolers.com. And if you want one that's etched or engraved like the one we've got on the wall back here, you can find the link in the show descriptions. It's always in the notes. Just expand them out and check them out. They're fantastic people. Like no one ever gets one who's like, damn it, can't believe I spent this kind of money on this kind of thing. You're like, oh, that's a really cool looking product. And you'll always feel that way. Don't buy it if you don't need it. But check them out if you do. Okay, let's keep pushing forward. A couple of things. I said we'd talk a little bit about Trump and tariffs. I got some funny stuff. Trump has a plan B, or Mexico has a plan B. I think that's like an abortion pill. That's weird. They're really upset. The Canadians, the Mexicans, and the snow Mexicans. They're upset. Here's Justin Trudeau talking about how his feelings are hurt. I thought this guy just resigned. Isn't he going to get stepped down? Like, get the heck out, dude. Canadians are excited about this. They want to come in and be Americans. I'm sorry that we're going to have to tariff you for a little while. It's just what's going to happen. Can't do anything about it.
Unfortunately, the actions taken today by the White House split us apart instead of bringing us together. Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
Okay, nobody cares. He did say White House, which really just sort of caught me off guard. Whenever you say White House like that, I always say, why are you saying it what way? Why would you do that? And it's because you're Justin Trudeau and you just overemphasize things. I like your importance in the world. $155 billion worth of goods. That's fine. We'll buy American. It's only going to bump up prices on things that hurt Canadians. I heard an entire breakdown, and maybe I'll play it later on, or maybe I'll throw it out on social media. But there's a big breakdown on why the United States buys Canadian crude. And if they suddenly make it to the point where it's not going to be valuable to us to do it, then we just won't buy it from them. The reason that they sell it to us, by the way, their sour crude, which is sort of like the raw and unprocessed stuff coming out of all of their pipelines, is because they don't have the refinery factories to do it. So they can't actually refine it in their own country, which is why they sell it at a very low rate to Americans, and Americans can turn around and refine it, and then they can use it, and so everybody wins. But if it becomes not valuable for Americans, then we just won't buy their crude oil. The end. You've already heard Trump say they're going to expand drilling and so on and so forth. So that's going to be kind of fun. Anyway, you had people talking about tariffs. You had Donald Trump defending it. They're also trying to defend the American government worker. Here's a little bit of Donald Trump's response. He's doing a press conference. You remember how often we saw Joe Biden just sitting there at the Resolute desk, like, signing things and doing his job and taking questions from reporters who came in? You mean like never? Like he never did that in 4 years? It's so wild to see like a guy acting like the president again when we've had sort of this like strange break. The biggest mistake Democrats made was giving a 4-year pause to show the difference between Donald Trump 1.0 and 2.0. Again, am I the biggest Trump fan in the world? I'm not. But I'm enjoying the hell out of what was going on in the last 10 days because I'm kind of a contrarian and I love chaos and I love hearing people whine and moan. And it is happening big time. Here's some people whining and moaning in the Oval Office while Donald Trump's doing his job. He's just like, yeah, I'll just take some questions while I'm just doing my thing here.
With efforts to reduce the federal workforce, whether it's offering what we've called the buyout package or other efforts, do you have any concerns that there will be employees broadly across the federal government who might take that up? And they're a part of the many different ways that agencies protect the public, from food inspections to water safety to the air traffic
everybody's
controls.
replaceable, and we'll get very good people to replace them if it turns out to be more than we thought. It could be a lot, it could be a little, we don't know, but we'd love to have them leave. We're trying to remember this. We want them to go into the private sector. It's our dream to have everybody almost working in the private sector now.
That seems really straightforward. Yeah, we don't want people working for the government because the government doesn't create anything. It doesn't. These people don't understand that. They're like, the government is the biggest provider of jobs. Yeah, where did the money come from to pay that? You and me. People working in the private sector. Most of my life was in the private sector, for whatever it's worth. Still, the majority of my work experience is private sector. I had someone criticize me about that the other day. Maybe if you weren't on the federal teat. It's like, dude, you don't understand. I actually came out of the private sector multiple times. I went into government service with an idea. It turns out that idea is bunk. So when you see them crying about DOJ firing prosecutors who worked on J6 cases, they're calling it a purge. The fact of the matter is that there's always a purge. You always get rid of people when you have a new president come in. Number one, all of the United States attorneys all submit their resignation. People are like, Bill Clinton fired all the the U.S. attorneys on day one. No. The history, the tradition is that on day one, when a new administration comes in, every single United States attorney submits a letter of resignation, and the president chooses when to honor it. That's common. That's been going on for 30 years, maybe more. As long as I've been aware, that's been a thing. But the DOJ prosecutors who worked on January 6 cases that were all fired off, they were all probationary employees. They were hired within the last 2 years to work January 6 cases. The work is gone. So is your need to be here. So you're hearing crying from people like Clarissa Jan Lim, who's a commentator over at MSNBC, saying that they got rid of all of these like dedicated federal servants. They signed up for a job. That job no longer exists. Have you ever had that happen in your private life? Have you ever worked in a job where suddenly the job didn't exist anymore? I have. I worked for a restaurant. I got hired to be a restaurant manager. I was working at one restaurant. They transferred me to another restaurant. And then the restaurant group made a different decision and sold the restaurant that I worked at. And my job went away instantaneously. Did you hear me crying about it? Did you see articles written in the newspaper saying, oh my God, a restaurant was sold and people who were promised a job no longer had the job? Welcome to America. That's just how it works. Many of you have been displaced, have seen downsize and mergers. This is what's supposed to happen. And that's the most amazing thing, maybe. The thing that we actually voted for in 2016, we're getting in 2025, I think. Donald Trump as business runner, running the federal government more like a business. Is it a business? No, it's a shitty business. It's a terrible one. It doesn't do a good job. It has DEI everywhere. It has websites that make no sense. It gives away money nonstop. It supports things that don't need to be supported, like USAID. We're going to get into that deeper. I just wanted to show you this little great picture. This is the Monroe Doctrine, the old story of the Monroe Doctrine. And I just went ahead and pulled like a quick GI, or what do you call it, AI summary for you guys. It was a non-interventionist policy that said basically the United States would not interfere in European politics. The whole idea is that it came out in about December of 1823. It was President Monroe's stance that the United States needed to deal with its own business. We had just gotten out of a protracted war with Britain from the 1780s all the way into the 18-teens. And so it was like, hey, we need to focus on what's going on. We need to get ourselves in order first. We need to get our house in order. We need to handle things in our hemisphere. And so that's what was done. A Trump doctrine seems like it'll be a throwback to this, but maybe even more aggressively. Because while we tried to build up the entire hemisphere for American prosperity, it'd be nice to see American prosperity first, foremost, and the only if we don't get a chance to do it. And if we can help out the snow Mexicans, then we do it. If we can help out the real Mexicans that are south of the border, great. But if not, so be it. That'd be okay. America has been giving money away, selling at a loss, enabling the Japanese and the European markets that should not be tariffing our goods in the same way. We're about to turn around and turn the tables and say, hey, you want to sell vehicles into the United States? Yeah, you're going to get a tariff on it. Hondas will be more expensive, but Fords will be more affordable then in comparison. And by the way, maybe Ford will get even less expensive when we can finally sell it in Europe. We can negotiate back. Wouldn't it be great if you increase the scope of being able to sell? Then you should be able to see prices decline here. It's a long-term plan, obviously, but tariffs are not ridiculous. And all the crying about them, it just makes me laugh. It's like people who don't understand economics talking about economics. People who think the government is a good in and of itself are crying about that. I got a few other things. Like I said, I'm going to end with an argument about the DNC because it's too funny, but I also want to give an other side of the news. I think this is worth covering. We should be open to hearing some things that are not favorable to what Trump has been saying and or doing. So let's be honest. Some immigrants, some illegals that are being arrested in Donald Trump's immigration crackdown are being released back in the United States. This is coverage coming in from NBC News. Now, the irony of this particular story, it cuts both ways for me. The irony is that, yeah, they should be keeping these people and deporting them. We told they'd be going to Guantanamo Bay or getting sent back in flights. We have this idea that 1,000 people a day are being arrested and they're just thrown on a plane and getting the hell out of here. And that's not actually happening because there is limited facilities. So of the 8,000 that have been arrested so far in the 12 days of the Trump administration, whatever it is, 14 days, there also are people that are getting let back into America. They're getting tagged and they're doing the same thing that they did under the Biden administration, which is sort of that catch and release. Here, we've tagged you. We're going to get rid of you. And now you're here and back in the United States running around. That's not great. The thing that's really ironic to me is that suddenly NBC News is covering this under their national security banner, which means that they're sort of saying that they understand that having a bunch of illegals in our country that are unvetted is in fact a national security issue. To me, that's the amusing little win here. But let's be honest. Promises made, promises kept. It's not going to be perfectly executed, and it never will be. If we get 40% of what Donald Trump said he would deliver, that will be a massive victory, I think. At the rate we're going right now, it might be 80%, which would be incredible. I just do not think that we should hold accountable and expect that everything he said is going to come to fruition. There will be a change. And some of this stuff is going to be the hard reality of you can't get every single person who gets arrested on a plane the same day and sent out on an exportation flight. You're not going to be able to expat everybody right away. So there you go. All right. I told you I'd do some Black History Month stuff because it's pretty funny. How about the opening statement? This is how I enter into Black History Month. Again, this is the reason what the Democrats are doing is going to continue to win. Continue to encourage this. Do not stop them. I love this. I love every bit of it. This is the opening to the elections for the vice chair position of the DNC. That's going to be the mechanism that runs the Democratic National Committee, their party platforms, and so on. This is what it looks like. They've got a bunch of MSNBC hosts there because they're totally nonpartisan. And let's just kick it off. This is how it sounds.
And we'll begin with the opening statements. Each candidate will have 30 seconds. And we'll start with Dr. Quintessa Hathaway.
Good evening, everyone. It is my desire to be the next DNC chair. And I just want to give you all a little bit of something that's been on my heart here over the last couple of days. You fight on, you fight on, you fight on, you fight on. When your government is doing you wrong, You fight on, oh, you fight on.
Well, she's got my vote. Look, if you're tone deaf, you have fake eyelashes, you have fake hair, you wear a T-shirt for a job interview, like, I think you're hired. Like, way to go. She's it. Make her the next DNC chair. Seriously. And you can't hold a tune, but you decide to sing in front of a group anyway. Send it! Black History Month is in full effect. Now, listen, if you're not going to respect what I have to say when I'm standing at the microphone, when I'm at the platform, if I can't command you with my voice, what I'm going to do is command you with my race and my gender, which totally doesn't exist, but totally exists because of the confusion that we have. Here's kind of where it went. This is a demand for respect and authority. Enjoy.
Hello, Democrats. Hey, I am speaking, and I would love your attention. There is a black woman at this podium, and I deserve your attention like the 11 people who went before me. Yes, I am speaking.
Good evening, Democrats. Look up here. 3 strong black women standing before you. 3 black women who, rather than just grabbing a chair, ran for chair.
Te quiero mucho, Papa. Gracias por todo. My name is Artie Blanco, Freddie Blanco's daughter. Vote for me for vice chair.
Look at this room, y'all. Truly take it in. This is the Democratic Party. We are our strongest when we stand together.
We are in a time in this country when our democracy and our rights are under attack.
I won't subject you to too much more of that. I'm just going to say that diabetes is prevalent on that stage. And I only say that as someone who is a professional that used to work in that field, and I can eyeball what it looks like when you have what I call the trifecta, and that is morbid obesity, hypertension, diabetes. That is a fatal combination. None of those people have a long lifespan, especially the young ones that look like they're about 150 pounds overweight. I don't know why that's a thing that's going on, but they also wanted to be inclusive. So they also have a homosexual male up there who's giving a talk, and he made the following statement, something about ready to get offensive. I don't want to hear young gay men talk about getting offensive, but we should at least cover the fact that they're saying it.
Are you ready to go on the offense? Yeah! Are you ready to go on the offense? Yeah! We have to win back our young people. I am the only candidate in this race for any of these positions that is under 30. We had a 20-point shift to the right of our young people. We must show our young people we give a damn about them.
He's also the only person that's in a normal body weight, although he's a little bit frail, and he probably is the only one that actually has a normal blood glucose level. So that's actually pretty good. So thank God that's David Hogg. David Hogg, who is apparently the son of an FBI agent who hates guns despite not knowing much about guns. Maybe it's because he disarmed himself by having biceps that are probably only a few inches around. I think I can grab them with one hand. David Hogg, listen, great stuff. Great stuff coming from them. Just a complete disaster. And lest you think that that was the entirety of it, there actually was one thing that even beat that better. And when there's nothing better than the people getting up and discrediting themselves, whether it be being tone deaf or being overweight or morbidly obese and all this kind of stuff. The best part for me is when we learn what the rules are as they put the steering committee in for the DNC, and they sound something like this. Look, double down on this. Democrats, you're doing a great job. You just need to get all of the racist, sexist, and or homophobic people in America to just listen harder. Share this message as much as you can.
Our rules specify that when we have a gender non-binary candidate or officer, the non-binary individual is counted as neither male nor female, and the remaining 6 offices must be gender balanced. With the results of the previous elections, our elected officers at this point are currently 2 male and 2 female. In order to be gender balanced, we must add 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender.
Yeah, so you got that right. I don't know what that means, but anyway, 1 male, 1 female, 1 person of any gender, and non-binary people get to count one way or another. It's nonsensical. So anyway, I hope they keep doing that. That's maybe how they end up in these like kind of goofy moments. I found this great clip the other day, and it's like, how do you solve the problem of violence? How do you solve the problem of human nature? How do you stop things that we would like to stop? And what you could do is you could go out there and teach people like, hey, there's a right and a wrong. There's a man and a woman. There's some biblical values. That's what Western society and democracies have all been based on, the individual worth of the human being, you know, like Christian principles, Judeo-Christian heritage. You could do that, or you could try to take the tips off kitchen knives. So here's Idris Elba, who I absolutely love as an actor. I think he's fantastic. I think he has great gravity. He does an excellent job portraying characters on screens, but he's making an argument for something that's going on in the UK, which is that they don't have any guns, so now people have killed each other with knives, almost like people are crappy everywhere, and if you bring in people that don't have good values, then they might try to use, like, I don't know, violence to get across their point. He's making an argument here, which might as well be part of the Democratic National Committee's platform. I would like to see this integrated into the DNC's national statements. They want to take the tips off kitchen knives because we could create a solution to the danger of violence by destroying the tools that you use to make soup and salads and cut up your meats. So anyway, I'll let him make his argument, and then maybe we can get this into the DNC's platform because it would make me most happy.
The truth is that kitchen knives are perhaps 25% of the knives used in most of the terrible crimes. That's one of the stats in the films. And those kitchen knives are usually a domestic situation.
Right.
Okay. So kitchen knives, of course, it's very difficult. They're a domestic knife. I do think there is areas of innovation that we can do with kitchen knives. I hate to say it, not all kitchen knives need to have a point on them.
Right.
That sounds like a crazy thing to say, but actually it would reduce. You know, you can still cut your food without the point on the knife, which is an innovative way to sort of look at it. And in a country in crisis, I'm sorry, but yeah, let's look at that. But the truth is, all knives, you know, the loophole on the heritage knives allows
heritage
the sale
knives
of
are ones with points.
Ninja swords to be sold.
Swords, yeah.
So while, you know, you've got your granddad's sword on there and you want that, that's fine, of course, but it is leaving a loophole for someone to carry a ninja sword.
Somebody could carry a ninja sword, people. You know what I like about ninja swords? I can see them. They're really hard to conceal. I think everybody should open carry rifles because I can see them, and then I know you have a rifle. It's also not the fastest thing to get into action. So there you go. Let's just do that. They're living in fantasy world, but like, you know, don't interrupt the enemy when they're making mistakes. Don't stop these people. And right now, again, like just tying it back into this whole piece here, we're watching government employees melt down and tell us exactly how little value they are providing. The people that are providing value in the work that they do, they're not crying. They're not scared. Just like that press conference that Donald Trump is sitting at. They're like, what about the people that provide value? Those people are busy doing their damn jobs. They don't care. They know that they have value. And it turns out if the federal government doesn't do the thing that they are doing anymore, some private industry will pick it up. They sure will. Or a state agency will. It's not a danger. Anyway, so there you go. Push that back. All right, I'm going to end today's program with a little bit of an argument that we've kind of had. And I've got the settling blow for all of you. Many people are seeing Pete Hegseth there in the Secretary of Defense role. He's stepped into it quite well. And the thing that he said is that women do not belong in combat jobs. And now that's obviously true to anybody that understands anything about women or combat or carrying weapon systems. But I actually have never been able to see it so succinctly argued as this. The number one reason why women are not able to be in combat jobs, women just listen, you can't. By and large. And this clip proves it. We're going to go out the door with this.
Women can't make machine gun noises with their mouth.
Crystal, make machine gun noises with your mouth. Pop, 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 pop. Oh my God. Yeah, that checks. Summer, make machine gun noises with your mouth.
Pew, pew, pew.
That's even worse. Is Tay in the pool house?
Yeah, and Jaden's by the pool.
Got it. How can y'all not make machine gun noises with your mouth?
It's a perfectly reasonable question.
Jaden, make machine gun noises with your mouth.
What?
This is not a Kendrick Lamar song. What are we doing?
What are we doing
Lord,
here?
have mercy.
This is a nice house, though. It really is. I like these sliding doors.
For 3.
At the pool house.
Taya, make machine gun noises with your mouth. No, not at all. 0 for 4. It's not that hard. We can do it, Jake. Do it. This ain't hard. What are we doing?
What are we doing? How come you guys women, how come you can't make machine gun noises with your mouth? It's super easy. Pop, 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 pew, pew, pew. Get out of here. Okay, so you're out of combat jobs, and this is the definitive video. Somebody send this to Pete Hegseth so he understands what's going on. The argument has been made. The argument has been lost. Women, your stand-ins have all failed you. That's it. Discussion over. All right, that's the end of the show. I know we went a little long today because it's Monday, and I told you I was hyped up. Stand by for complete meltdown and fire. We're going to have a lot of fun this week. I just can already tell you, if you guys want to make sure you are supporting the channel wherever you can, it's at rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. That's where the best live chat in America is on the interweb. Go follow us over on X. It's at Kyle Seraphin. The Locals channel and the Locals community is KyleSeraphin.com. And you can always easily cheat code your way over to Spotify by going to KyleSeraphinShow.com. I'm going to be on with Dinesh D'Souza a little bit later on today. I'm going to be talking to another podcast going live with the Green Beret, whose name escapes me, and I'm so sorry about that, but I'll let you guys know over on Locals and on X. And if you guys want to be part of any of those things, jump on in. Until then, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Fill your cup with tears. God bless all of you. Go hug a neighbor. Go do something good. We're getting out of here. I'll see you again tomorrow morning. God bless.
Thanks for listening to the Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.